Hi, my name's Shane. I use they, them pronouns, and this is our second session of Impossible Landscapes, the Delta Green role-playing game campaign. This game was organised as part of Open Hearth, which is an online community that plays and discusses lots of tabletop role-playing games, mostly Indian story games, with an emphasis on safety tools and consent and good practices like that. If you'd like to come play with us or find out more, you can check out openhearthgaming.com, and I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description. And I'll get my players to introduce themselves and their characters. Sorry, somebody's keyboard is quite loud. Could I just get you to mute if you're not speaking? Thank you. So I'll ask you each to introduce yourselves and your characters, your names, pronouns, and anything else that you'd like us to know about either you or the agent that you're playing. Brandon, can we start with you today?
Certainly, I'm Brandon. I am playing Tara Reinhardt. She, who is a firefighter paramedic by profession, was recruited into Delta Green because she saw something in a fire that couldn't exist and which she could not reconcile with hallucination or illness. And she likes to bicker with Elena. Feels like she needs to watch out for Felix or he would get into terrible trouble. And has great respect for Sarah's unusual abilities.
Cool, thank you. Mark?
Hi, my name is Mark. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them. I am playing Yelena Anisimov, whose pronouns are she, her, a former KGB agent with the Soviet Union, and an anthropologist who was recruited by Delta Green for her work in studying extra-dimensional civilizations. With the Soviet government. She has a secret crush on Sarah Bradford, one of the other agents, and yes, and does enjoy the bickering with Tara as well.
Nice, thank you. Puckett?
Hey there, I'm Puckett. I'll be playing the aforementioned Sarah Bradford, who is, I use he, him pronouns. Sarah Bradford uses she, her pronouns. And she is an art forger, specifically painting, and knows a fair bit about the business behind it. And if I recall correctly, she came into contact with Delta Green because of some unusual art that she stumbled across or was involved with. And, got curious. Probably not so good. It's really not a good idea to get curious when you're with Delta Green. It's really not. I'm just going to leave it at that. Just don't get curious with Delta Green.
All right, thank you all very much. So just a reminder that we are using safety tools. There's a list of lines and veils in the character keeper if you want to remind yourself. And to recap briefly what happened last time, your team is in New York because a Delta Green friendly noticed an occult symbol, which you have learned was the seal of Person from the Ars Goetia, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, in the apartment of a New York poet who vanished a few months back. You found that apartment is filled with this seemingly random array of bizarre items glued all over the walls and ceiling. You found some strange videotapes and surveillance equipment, and I guess just sort of generally some bad vibes around the apartment and the building. As we finished up last time, Tara and Yelena had, I guess not spoken to, but had encountered an artist named Louise Post, who is declining to communicate for 12 months as part of a performance work. Tara basically was trying to tempt her to head down to Abby's apartment and check it out, and Yelena had found a large antique mirror under her bed. Felix, played by Blake, who can't be with us today, had checked with local police and found that there had been reports of homeless people sleeping in the building earlier this year, and there was one occasion where a tenant named Michael Van Fitz called the police because there were women at his door threatening him with violence, although they had gone by the time the police arrived. And Sarah learned at the New York Library that the Macallistar was designed by an architect named Asa Darabondi, who was known both for bizarre constructions and a string of murders that he was suspected of after his disappearance in the 1950s. Is that enough of a recap for us to get started, or is there anything else that anyone wanted to check or add to that?
I think it's worthwhile to note that one of the videos seems to depict the same circumstances that have kind of brought us to investigate this disappearance, but set in like a medieval fantasy kind of setting.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So as we get started, Tara, I think I'm going to get you to make a human roll to see if your gambit is going to successfully draw Louise downstairs. So just D100, trying to roll equal to or under your human skill. It's a 49 over 30, so that's going to be a failure. All right. So, Tara, you go downstairs, you open up Abby's apartment. If you wait around it, Louise is not going to come down. At least not now. What do you do after opening the door? Are you muted, Brandon?
I'll hold up the door frame for a little bit, and then I'll go back up and check on Yelena.
All right. So, Yelena, apart from the mirror, you don't find anything else of note as you look around Louise's apartment, and you also see that it doesn't seem like she's taking the bait that Tara laid down. What do you do?
I think, considering that Louise hasn't really done much to acknowledge or even really stop us from wandering around her apartment, I think I'd like to investigate the mirror a little closer. And I don't know if like it's relevant to maybe roll an occult roll to see if there's any sort of a significance in that realm of things.
Yeah, you can. Sure, you can make an occult roll.
60, yeah. All right, here we go.
All right.
49. Oh, nope, that's not what. 44, there we go.
So is that a success for you?
Yes, it's under 60.
So, I mean, there's no like markings or anything like that on the mirror. There's nothing about the shape that suggests sorry, you're right. So somebody's pointed out, Puckett's pointed out in the chat, which we should mention, that if the numbers on the dice match, that's a critical roll. So a success where the numbers match is a critical success. A failure where the numbers match is a critical failure. The success, so a critical success for this. So I'm trying to think about what a critical success is when the information you get is that there is no occult significance. So this is what happens. You're sure there's nothing particularly occult about this mirror. You can definitely tell that it is finely made. It is antique. It's probably quite valuable, but it has no particular occult significance. There are, ways that a mirror like this could be used in an occult ritual, but there's no. This exact mirror itself is not of any significance. I think that for your critical success, though, you should get something extra. So why don't you go ahead and make a resilience roll? So just trying to roll equal to or under your resilience.
Right. Just looking at my resilience again here. Under the current, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, that's a failure, but
a critical failure. So a critical failure on a resilience roll means that you're going to lose the maximum possible, because generally a resilience check the loss result is expressed as a dice form, like a 1d4 or something. In this case, the resilience loss on a failure is only 1 point. So you've got out of that quite well. But bear with me for 1 sec, and I'll tell you what happens.
So 1 point, you said, right?
Just 1 point of resilience. If you want to, you can project. You can try and project your resilience losses onto a bond, which basically means that you draw on the sort of strength of one of those relationships in order to, sort of suppress or reduce the harm that you take, the psychic harm or the psychic stress. There's not really any reason for you to do that for a 1 point loss, but it's open to you if that is something that you want to do.
Which is, yeah, there's no point with only 1 point.
There's going to be a point as you get up towards 5 points of loss, which is where you'll start to get overwhelmed and start to experience problems. So what you hear is voices coming through the wall from the hallway outside.
Just like I can tell that there are voices coming out, or can I pick anything out?
So what you immediately notice is that there are voices out there. There's at least 2 people talking. One of them seems to be laughing or maybe crying. You can make an alertness roll to see if you actually pick up anything that they're saying.
Ooh, all right then. Let's see, what's my alertness? 20, another failure.
All right. So I think that you think that they're speaking Russian, but you can't make out any particular words. At this point, I think Tara arrives back at the apartment. Tara, you don't see anyone outside. Do you head back in? Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Yelena found something interesting since she didn't come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can open the door.
All right. So Yelena, the way Tara's come in, she should definitely have walked like right by whoever's out there.
Yelena looks at Tara and is like, did you see anybody out in the hallway when you came in?
No, it's empty. Why, are you expecting someone?
No, I just heard something. It sounded like Russian out in the hallway.
I don't think so. What you have there?
There's a mirror under the bed, and I can't tell if there's any significance to it, other than it's kind of strange to keep a mirror under a bed. But
well, I stashed a mirror under my bed once so nobody would step on it. But yeah, it's kind of a little odd, but it's not the oddest thing. Anything interesting about it?
No, just finely crafted. Shane, I believe last session you said that it seems like it was like highly polished. There's no dust on it or anything, if I recall.
Oh yeah, that's right. So even though it's facing up, and you would expect that if it, you would expect dust to gather there, there's none of that.
Right.
Oh, maybe it was hanging recently. Is there like could look around for that?
You definitely don't see anywhere on the wall that it could plausibly have been hung, because it's quite a large mirror, and the walls are, there's lots of art photographs, posters, framed pictures, things like that.
Right. No blank space that looks like
there's no like hook with a mirror-shaped space around it.
No. I mean, well, if it wasn't hanging here, it was hanging somewhere else. But the question is, why does she have it? She's not going to tell us.
Yeah, maybe check around the apartment to see if they're behind the door.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for a hook or a hole in the wall where a hook could have been. But there are a lot of places to look,
I mean, you can look around. You're not going to find a particular place that it could have been hanging.
Okay.
It's possible that that she's recently moved around some of the framed pictures or something like that. Like it's not
Sure. No,
impossible.
no, no.
That
I don't think it. I don't think it's in here. The question is whether she got that
yeah,
from
right.
from Abigail's place.
Oh, I mean, it seems possible to you because all the furniture is missing from Abigail's,
Yeah.
but there's not really any obvious way to tell.
Okay.
Without just pulling it out and taking a closer look at it.
I mean,
Not
I
bad.
assumed that you were doing that, like you were examining
okay.
it for signs of occult significance. So I think you've
Gotcha.
had a good look at it.
Fair enough. No
Right.
weird reflections then.
All right. Well, let's check this one off for the moment.
All
Any
right.
tenants we haven't visited?
There's just Michael Van Fitz is the person that none of you have spoken to.
Oh yeah.
So
What are you
I'll
up
cut
to,
over
Sam?
to Puckett for a bit and then come back and
Yeah.
see you catch up with Michael. So Sarah, you still at the library. I think as we finished up last time, you'd expressed interest in particular in the thought buildings that Darabondi built in Chicago early in his career.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular about them that you're trying to find out?
Let's say I'm shooting for anything I can find first.
Yep.
But I'm kind of wondering the architecture, like the building that I've seen that he put together, the Macallistar building, is just, it is not right in so many different ways. There's no consistency or logic to it. Like, just look at the bathtub placement. There's absolutely nothing sensible about this building. So I suppose what I'm looking for is, are these thought buildings that he made similar, either in terms of layout, or do the locations of these buildings in Chicago form a sigil of some sort? It's just, what the hell was this guy doing with these things?
So the most striking difference between the thought buildings, which are lavishly illustrated in at least one of the books that you found, compared to the Macallistar, like there's weird things about the layout and stuff like that, but from the outside it looks like a perfectly ordinary building. The thought buildings do not look like ordinary buildings. They're avant-garde constructions. They were strange and unusual for their era, and they remain strange and unusual today. The construction, I don't want to give you the impression that it's like unnatural or something, but they're made in odd angles. There's parts that jut out in strange ways. There are unusual just separations of public and private space. They're all very unusual and unorthodox in their construction, and were praised for their genius in the time that they were made. You can't identify anything in particular about their placement. They're not forming a sigil in the way that they're distributed around Chicago or anything like that. In fact, they're all clustered in, I guess, what were the wealthiest neighborhoods of the 1920s, with no particular pattern. But the thing that is most striking to you about the thought buildings is that your parents used to live in one. In fact, you were born in a hospital, but the first year or so of your life, your family lived in one of those buildings before they moved to Boston. How does that strike you?
Really interesting, considering that my parents never gave me any indication that they actually left Boston. So yeah, that's kind of weird. And they were always very proud about the family's role in the city and the region. They never said they'd actually decamped to Chicago. All I ever remembered was Boston. All they ever told me about was Boston. They never mentioned Chicago. So I'm wondering why they left that out. And it's not just an oversight. I mean, we've talked about my childhood and stuff for a we've talked about it extensively. So this is something that was intentionally omitted. It's not just an accident or an oversight.
I mean, I noticed that your parents aren't amongst your bonds. Are they people that you would call to ask something like this?
So I mean, my parents and I don't exactly get along. Like, I take great pleasure in making their lives difficult so that when they're going to their society gatherings in Boston and, touting up their status as the Mayflower Bradfords, that they have to ignore the black sheep daughter who got kicked out of Harvard for forging art. So I could call them. But the relationship is a little tense.
Hmm.
I doubt they'd be any happier with what I'm doing now than they were when I got kicked out of Harvard.
Yeah.
But I might as well, because if they left something out, there must be a reason for it. And if I call up and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, why'd you lie to me about living in Chicago for a year?" It could piss them off, and I love doing that.
So you're gonna find your way to a payphone?
Yeah, because this is 95. But New York Public Library, there's
Yeah,
payphone banks
there's
around.
bound to be payphones. Um, all right, and let's say it's still daytime. So are you gonna? I think what would your dad still be at the office and your mum would be at home probably? Does that sound right?
Oh, yeah, more or less.
So do you call the office or your house?
Do I want passive aggression or do I want active anger? I'll go with active anger. That'll be more fun. So I'll call my dad.
All right. So his secretary puts you on hold, and then uh, eventually you hear his voice as he answers the phone. Says, "Yes, Sarah."
Sup, Dad? How you doing?
This is a social call. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm down in New York and I got a question for you, Dad.
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me that we lived in one of Asadera Bondi's stock buildings in Chicago for a year?
So there's a silence that is long enough to be noticeable. Your father is not often lost for words, um, but he pauses before he answers, and he says, "Sarah, you were very young. I didn't think that you remembered. Um, I'm not sure why it never came up."
I mean, you talked about my childhood all the time. You never mentioned, you've always just talked about Boston, 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 how much you loved Boston. You never mentioned actually ever leaving Boston and living in the second city for a bit.
Yes, it's strange when you put it like that. Why don't you come home? We can talk about this over dinner. It'd be wonderful to see you.
Um, you know, I'd like that, but like I said, I'm down in New York. I'm doing a research project right now. Um, don't worry, it's well, okay, it's related to art, but it's not art that I'm working on. But I'll tell you what, when I get back, yeah, let's do that.
What is your research related to?
I just got caught up in some architectural stuff and found out that there was some resources down here and well, you know, stumbled across this. And I realized, hey, I haven't talked to you guys in a while.
Hmm. All right. Well, I will have to go. Be careful, and I hope that you'll be back in Boston soon. New York
Yeah,
can be a dangerous place.
I mean, it's got a bad rap, but place is really cleared up. It's not at all like what it was in the 70s, even the 80s.
Well, I hope not. All right. And he hangs up.
And I look at the phone and say, typical. Doesn't even say I love you or anything like that. Doesn't even say bye. Fucking asshole.
So I'm going to go back to the others in just a sec, but I guess the main thing that you come away with is like, the research and the call and all of that has pretty much taken the whole afternoon. But you definitely feel you've figured out that there is more to learn about, that the library has more material about Darabonti that you could look into. It seems like they have some archival material. There could be relevant information in that, but it would be another kind of half day's work to dig into it. So I'll come back to you later, and you can decide if that's something that you want to put time into. So Yelena and Tara, do you want to do any like planning about how you're going to approach Mark, or are you just knocking on the door? Oh, sorry, Michael is who you're approaching.
It might be worthwhile to talk a little bit about it.
So what do we know about him?
I think that Felix will have told you that he made a report to the police about some women making threats at his door. I think that's pretty much the only thing that you've learned about him so far.
Did we get any details about that? Like what were the nature of the threats or anything like that?
I mean, the police report was that he claimed that there were women at his door threatening him with violence. When the police arrived, there was no sign of these women. The officers seemed to have concluded that it may have been a false report, but didn't have enough evidence to charge him.
Okay.
I think, Yelena, that that we should just try to be as friendly with them as possible, and maybe you can do most of the talking.
Do you want to come at this formally, like FBI, or informally?
I think you should show him credentials if he doesn't want to talk about Miss Wright. But let's keep this low key.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess we go across the hall then. I think his apartment is directly across from Louise.
Yeah.
If I remember, I don't have the layout open right now.
Yeah, that's right. He's on the same floor.
Yeah. And knock on the door.
All right. So the door is opened by a sort of neatly dressed man in his late 20s. Has sort of a serious expression. Says, hello.
Like, yes, Mr. Van Ness, was it?
Van Fitz.
Van Fitz. Yes, Mr. Van Fitz.
Yes, and you are?
We're here looking into the disappearance of Miss Abigail Wright.
Oh.
Give hardcover identities, of course.
Yeah, I assume that you're doing that all the time.
Yeah.
I don't need you to tell me.
We're in some new details about Miss Wright's. They're reopening the investigation to Miss Wright's disappearance, and so we're interviewing anyone who might have any information to give. Could we ask the kindness of, may we come in?
Yeah, absolutely. So he brings you in. He sits you all down at a little table. You're like, look, and he does, like, he has a friendly and cooperative demeanor once you say that you're looking into Abigail's disappearance. Because I don't think I really know anything that would be very helpful, but I'm happy to talk to you.
Was the was the report that he made the same night, presumably, or the same day that we believe Abigail disappeared?
No, it was at least a month earlier. Sorry, I don't have the exact date in front of me.
Yeah.
We understand that there wasn't anything that Abigail said to you to make you believe that she was in trouble or any other unusual goings on.
No, I mean, she seemed to be doing really well. Her career was going well. She seemed happy to, I wasn't close with her, but, I saw her around the building.
Were there... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to ask, were there... Do you know if there were other residents who lived here at that time?
No, it's been a while since we had anyone. He mentions like someone who moved out a couple of years back. That was the last time that anyone else lived in the building.
You had filed a police report about a month prior to Abigail's disappearance about some people who had threatened you.
So he lets out a little, like, sort of slightly nervous or embarrassed laugh at that, and he says, in hindsight, it seems silly. There were some women, probably just some sort of a prank. I don't think I was ever in any real danger.
What did they threaten you with, if I may ask?
Go ahead and make a human roll to see.
Elena, will you do this? Here.
Pardon me?
Actually, I mean, you can both make the human roll since you're both part of the scene.
Okay.
Right.
Well, wonders never cease.
So, Tara, he does start to open up to Tara. I'm not sure what it is you've done, but he's really taken a shine to you. And it's clear that he's being as forthcoming as he can. He says, "Look, I came home that night. For a while, I'd been, people seemed to. It seemed like there'd been intruders in the building. I didn't see anyone, but there was, like almost like people had been camping out or something. Little bedding, food scraps, things like that in the hallways." And then I came home one night and there were these three women in the lobby. Two of them older, sort of homeless looking, don't mean to be rude or insensitive, but, dirty, disheveled. One younger woman, sort of normal looking. I told them that they shouldn't be in the building, and they started to follow me back to my apartment. I locked the door and they stood outside and they were disgusting. The things that they threatened to do. They said that they had a knife. I could hear it tapping against the door. I was terrified. And I mean, the main emotion that comes through all this is his embarrassment about it all.
Well, it sounds like you had reasons to be concerned. I mean, even if they weren't a credible threat for getting through the door, it's a very unsettling thing to happen.
It certainly was unsettled.
I mean, even in in New York, something like that might happen on the street, but you don't expect it to come into the place where you live.
Exactly. That front door is supposed to be secure.
Didn't his initial police report say 2 women?
No, he said 3 women.
Oh, okay. I just misheard.
Sorry, I may have missaid that, but that's not a clue. The report
Okay.
Was Abigail's apartment was found in rather an unusual state.
Oh, really?
Yes. All of her furniture was gone, for one thing. And for another, well, she seems to have uh, glued objects to just about every inch of wall space. It's something that goes way, way beyond anything I've seen, even as an installation. And certainly, I don't think she meant it this one.
He looks surprised and interested in what you're saying. I don't know what to make of that.
What kind of art do you engage in, Mr. Van Fitz?
Well,
We assume you're an artist because you live here, but maybe that's not true.
I make my living as a translator, but I'm a photographer. As an artist, I'm a photographer, but not an especially successful one. He kind of gestures to the bookshelves, which there's a lot of bookshelves in here that are lined with works of kind of political theory and things like that. He has a few of his photographs on the walls. They don't strike either of you as particularly distinguished.
I'm not one to judge.
So you were on a friendly basis with Abigail, but didn't really associate with her very frequently.
That's right. I'd been to some of her readings. I go to a lot of literary events.
When was the last time do you think you were in her apartment?
I haven't visited her apartment. We weren't close like that.
Oh, I see. Has she ever been here?
No.
And when was the last time you saw her before her disappearance was reported?
I think he'll say a week before.
Did you notice anything different about her demeanor or what she talked about or how?
I mean, I'm trying to think of something that might be interesting to you. There really wasn't anything. She got us all very interested in this TV show that we all liked for a while. But, I don't think there's anything I could tell you that would be useful to you.
What was the name of the show?
It's called The Night Floors, a soap opera.
Sort of medieval fantasy?
Oh, you know it? Not many people have seen it.
We found a tape of it among Abigail's effects.
Oh. Yeah, I'd love to get some tape copies.
Do you remember a particular episode about a missing person and 4 of these characters trying to puzzle that out?
I mean, sure, sort of. I mean, the show was on late at night. We never seemed to be able to tune in the channel quite right. It was a little hard to follow the story, I guess, at times.
Right. Did you say what was the name of it again?
The Night Floors, which is the same as the label on the tape.
Oh, okay.
Do you have anything of Abigail's here?
Well, I have her chapbooks. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
So he'll go to the bookshelf. He'll sort of, peruse a little bit, and he'll draw out a couple of volumes, little chapbooks, and put them on the table.
And I'll just leaf through one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they look like poems to you. There's nothing of particular note in them.
There's no personalizations, no
nothing.
No notes or anything like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So she introduced this TV show to everybody in the building?
No, I think so. Yeah.
Host watching parties or anything like that?
So that's a good question. I'm just thinking about how I already told you that they've never been in each other's apartments,
right.
But now it does seem like it makes sense that they have. But
They're-
so yeah, I think maybe they all got together at like Tamara's apartment to watch it sometimes.
Apologize, Shane. I'm not trying to make this harder
No,
for
no,
you.
that's all right. I'm just trying to like bring things together, but also conscious that if any details are inconsistent, it seems like a clue.
Do you know Miss Post?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I know
She
everyone in the building
seems
a little.
she seems to be a very dedicated artist.
Well, yeah, I mean, not talking for a year—that's pretty intense, isn't it?
Very intense. It was. She was kind enough to let us look around her place, but of course she wouldn't speak to us. I was hoping to get her to look at Abigail's place to see whether or not she had any reaction to it, but she declined.
Well, I
It's
mean,
too
I'd be
bad. It's
happy
quite
to come take a look if you want to get a second opinion.
by all means, please.
All right. So maybe I'll just go back to Puckett for a minute here.
Yep.
So, Sarah, like the research that you've already done has taken up pretty much the entire afternoon for you. Do you want to go back to the Macallistar and catch up with the others, or is there something else you'd like to do as we get into sort of early evening?
You said there was more to look up on the thought buildings. There's some primary texts that I could go through because this has got me curious now. So I think I want to just think through all that.
So I mean, the archival material is in the library, but the library is going to be closing soon. So you'd really need to come back another time if that's what you want to. If that's what you want to do.
Okay, you are cruel. I'm gonna have to deal with that curiosity for another day. This is just a generalized question, but did we have like an arranged meeting point and time, or is it just kind of like catching up back at the hotel whenever?
I don't think we as players talked about that, but you as characters are welcome to just say that you have organized a time to meet back up.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I think so. If
Okay.
we've worked together, I assume that we've set up some kind of system.
All right. In that case, I will just go back to our designated waiting point or meeting point and wait.
Okay.
And that's probably going to be the hotel, I'm guessing. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So Tara and Yelena, you take Michael down to Abigail's apartment, and he is, as you would expect, sort of amazed and impressed by what he sees. I'm going to make a dice roll to see if he finds anything interesting. So he doesn't. He's looking around. He's very, he's overwhelmed. He does. I mean, contrary to what Tara had told him, he does seem to see it as an art installation. He says, I knew that Abby was gifted with words, but I had no idea so gifted with this.
No one seems to have had any idea of it, which is why one of the reasons we thought it so strange. Also, the fact, as you can see, this apartment, is, as the authorities found it, there's no bed or no dressers. There's nothing, just the fixtures that are permanently attached to the walls, and this incredible head and play of objects.
Well, I mean, that seems to suggest that she moved out of the building. But I mean, I didn't notice a moving truck or anything like that.
No, nor has anyone else. Nor did she give the landlord any forwarding address or information or any sort of communication, whatever. That's the reason that missing persons report was opened up on her.
Come to think of it, there doesn't seem to be a space here that seems like a place she would sleep.
She could possibly curl up among some of the things here on the floor, but it would be she does seem to have rendered this place all but uninhabitable. How strange. Well, we were hoping that something might strike you, but thank you for taking the trouble to come down.
That's all right. Thank you. I hope that you. Well, I hope that you find her. I hope that she's okay.
Here's our card. You can leave a message if you think of anything later.
All right. So does the card have your mobile number on it, or the hotel number, or?
It has our mobile number.
Okay.
Sure, and it has a voicemail, so that we generally don't answer it unless it's one of us.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And so at this point, it will be getting to like evening time and about time to go back and rendezvous at the hotel. Is that what you're going to do, or is there other stuff that you want to do first?
It occurs to me also that it might be worthwhile seeing if we can get into the apartments that don't have anybody in them.
Mm-hmm.
We can get in. The question is whether we can get in surreptitiously.
Well, I think as night's falling, actually, Yelena's going to say, "I'm not staying here."
So I think, like, let's just say that you've had time during the afternoon to check the empty apartments, and you just haven't found anything of note. They're laid out similarly to the others. There's no signs of anyone being in there recently. They're just unrented apartments.
Fair enough.
None of the rest of them have been converted into some weird art installation.
No, nothing like that.
Well, I guess we'd better head back then and see whether or not Sarah has discovered anything interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on the top of the hour, so this seems like a good spot for us to take a break and come back as your rendezvous. So we'll come back in 10 minutes at 4 past the hour, if that's good for everyone.
Fine.
Cool. Sounds good.
Puckett, are you back? Yep, great. All right. So the three of you gather back at the hotel. You exchange notes on what you found today. And then what?
Curious. I want to start trying to dig up listings for this Night Floors show, because we've been told that it's on TV, that it's on late, and that it's difficult to tune in. I mean, to me, that suggests that it's probably UHF. So
if you look through the TV listings in the paper, you're not going to find any listing for the Night Floors.
I'm going to idly turn on the TV, and just, flick through the obscure part of the UHF spectrum just to see what happens to be in reception here.
Oh, interesting. Why don't you make a resilience test?
Yes.
All right. You don't find anything. You just see, snowy TV static and the occasional UHF program.
I think I would like to. I don't know. Where would one access the internet at this point? Would the hotel have access?
This is 95.
95.
Yeah.
Real difficult. At the time, it was basically dial-in shell accounts, and if you didn't have one through a university or a private ISP, you didn't have one. I think AOL had just put people on the internet and opened up the internet access through their services, but otherwise the internet is not what we think of today.
Yeah, I mean AOL. You've got AOL's email is in '93, as I recall, because that was my beginning of my history with the internet too.
Yeah, I think
But
it's
but in terms of browsing services, it's still. I mean, there are Netscape Navigator comes out in '93, but there's not a
Yeah.
lot of content.
Right.
There's it's pretty much static web pages, and the search engines are so at best.
Yeah. I think there would have been like message boards by this time, though, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Usenet.
think that's right.
Yeah. So
There's
like my idea is like I want to see if I can find any message board that relates to this show.
So I mean, without like checking exactly when this started to happen, I'm sure. Let's say that you can find an internet cafe or something like that. Maybe one of the earliest.
well, there's Usenet is what there is, which is groups.
Um,
Show my age.
So you're going to go out to look up, try and find anything about the night floors in an internet cafe.
Yeah.
All right. I'll ask each of the others if they have any evening plans. Tara, what are you going to do?
I don't know. The only kind of extra information that we learned was about these odd intruders that Fitz reported. Fitz reported, and we have too little information on them to really know anything more about them. I'm kind of dry.
Sarah, what about you?
It's a real good question.
I mean,
trying to think.
Sorry,
I was going to say, I'm trying to think of where in New York City I might be able to find like a cafe where people would be prone to like viewing parties of cult shows or cult movies or something like that. Besides like college dorms and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you must be able to go to somewhere like near the film forum or something like that, where people with an interest in, obscure movies. There must be a New York Cinematheque or something like that, like those sorts of places.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go to someplace, to a location like that, and just kind of poke around and see if anybody knows of this thing.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I think the resolution here is just going to be that none of you find anything about the night floors. Outside of the Macallistar building, nobody has ever heard of this show or mentioned this show. In fact, you might be the only 3 people outside of the Macallistar building who've ever heard of it, as far as you can tell.
What that suggests to me is that you cannot get it outside of the Macallistar building. If that makes any sense. That there's something about the building. Something about the building.
I wonder what.
Just don't say the building's an antenna.
No, I don't have no idea what it is. But Sarah, you were saying that the building made no sense. That it was laid out in principles that defy normal architectural things. So what if?
Well, when else have you seen a bathtub in the living room, for fuck's sake?
No, absolutely. So, but what if what if it was built to some other end? I mean, and
Tara,
Abigail,
nobody built this building so it could pick up the night floors. This thing was built in like the 20s. What the
no,
heck?
of course not. Of
Jesus.
course not. But it could be a side effect of whatever reason it was made for, that this thing can happen. You have a better idea?
Bombing it down to the foundation and going home?
I don't think Delta Green would see that as a good way to minimize exposure.
I mean, gas leak. There you go. Boom. Done. Literally.
Those are speaking as someone who has investigated that very thing. It's a lot harder to make it happen than you might think.
Tara,
You know what?
you seem
That's
to
a very
be.
good point. How do we do it, Tara?
I'm sorry. I cannot. Can't do that any more than maybe you could rip up an old master, a real old master that you had in your hands for some important reason. But I cannot burn down a building. I'm sorry.
Well,
Yelena, were you going to
maybe I should introduce you all to my friend Molotov. No, but all joking aside, Sarah, you seem to be reacting
I wasn't
quite
joking.
intensely to this building.
No,
I found out that my folks lived in one of this asshole's buildings in Chicago for a year, which is strange because they like to talk about how they're Boston bred, Boston raised. They make a huge deal of Boston and being the Mayflower Bradfords and all this other shit. And they never mentioned that they just upped sticks and went to Chicago for a year. And I lived in one of those buildings, one of the thought buildings. These weird bastards.
wait. Your parents lived in one of these buildings? What's the chance of that?
Fucking slim. And not only that, but to conceal it. They've invited me to dinner in New York next time I'm back, or in Boston next time I'm back. You know what? We should all go because it would. But Tara, I have to ask a favor. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend because it would piss my parents off to no end if I was running around with a psychologist and a professor at MIT, and instead I'm dating a firefighter.
Much better looking than this. You're a psychologist and professor.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying, in terms of they're always concerned about social class and prestige and wealth and all this other shit, and it would fucking grind their gears. But yeah, it's weird that they lived in this building, and I lived in this building, and they never mentioned a word of it.
This is the second bit of seemingly self-referential thing that we've encountered, or weirdly coincidental. The first one was that the plot of Night Floors involving a missing woman and 4 people investigating.
Yeah. That was weird too.
It was weird. I was wondering if the women who came and threatened, Van Fitz was one of them too, but they didn't seem like us. Maybe we should take up residence in this building and see if anything happens.
At Tara's suggestion, I think Yelena let slip like a very visceral reaction just for a moment. I don't know if anybody knows.
What's going on?
Like that first night we were there, when we stayed well into the evening, it felt like we were under watch from everywhere. It felt like something was observing us. Or someone.
You mean that someone familiar, Elena? I mean, I don't know the kind of thing you were involved in, and you don't have to give me the details. But that kind of surveillance?
Something like that.
And then there was this afternoon where you thought that there were people talking outside of in the hallway when there absolutely weren't anybody in the hallway. Sarah, we didn't mention this.
Oh,
Elena thought
you were hearing voices
in Russian, speaking Russian, in the hallway outside the door when she was in Van Fitz's apartment. No, not in Van Fitz's apartment. In what's her name? Louise's apartment.
Louise's apartment.
Yeah, Louise Post. And I was just coming to get her, and there wasn't anybody in that hallway.
Like I can't tell you much, but just know that the Soviets would have a reason for wanting me back.
Am I going to have to fight spies?
Right now we're fighting a fog bank.
This is why I said let's just blow the damn thing up and go home. Terry, you can go to a coffee shop on the other side of the city. We won't tell you into the specifics. There could just be this building that mysteriously caught fire and went up in smoke.
People live in that building.
We could get them out.
What if there was a way? What if we could try to tune in to this show tonight?
From inside the building?
From inside the building. Maybe
With our luck, it would be on whenever we tried to tune in. Because that
way we don't have to work too hard.
Let's try it. Maybe it will tell us what we are going to do. I'm not sure I'm kidding.
I want to state for the record that I don't like this idea, and I think it will bring us nothing but misery and suffering. And when it does, I want to go on record here.
You're just establishing "I told you so" guidelines. Is that what this is? Yes. Is that what this is?
Yes, that is exactly what this is. I'm going to say "I told you so" when this idea brings us nothing but pain and grief. Having established that, let's go get a bottle of something good and hope we're all wrong.
Vodka. The only answer is vodka.
Vodka?
There are many answers. Vodka is only one.
I don't know how you can drink that stuff straight.
Ooh, we could try to get some blueberry vodka or something like that. What do you think, Elena? You want to get some fruit flavored vodka?
Visible look of disgust.
It's like saying fruit flavored Scotch whiskey
Yes, but you see, Scotch actually has variations in flavor based on peat. I know. So, you will get variations, but vodka, what variation do you get in vodka?
I think the whole point of vodka is to get hammered without tasting anything, right? Anesthesia?
Look, it's cold and miserable in what is it called now? Russia. So that's what vodka is for.
I'm sure they sell all sorts of things. Okay, well, let's do that then.
So can I just clarify, is the intention to visit one of the residents and use their television to try and watch the show, or are you going to try and smuggle out the television from your hotel room and plug it in somewhere?
Did Abigail not have a television in her apartment? apartment.
Well, there's no
That was gone
furniture.
too.
There's probably a TV that's fixed to the walls in some way, but if you want to try watching that, you can give it a go.
Well, then
It can still work.
Mr. Van Fitz was pleasant. We could go visit him, give him a call.
Seemed he might be the one most open to.
Maybe he could even find the show for us.
Maybe he's got shot glasses.
Give him a call.
So you took his number as well. I
I
guess
did,
that makes
yes.
sense. All right. So you call him and he answers. What do you say?
We'd like to come by again and talk, Mr. Van Fitz, and see whether or not you can find this TV show for us. For reasons that are, we may be grasping at straws here, but we think that there might be some clue that perhaps whoever that Abigail's disappearance had to do with something she saw there, or that whoever took her away knew about this show and copycatted something off of it. Would you be amenable to that?
I'm sorry, you can't come now. I have to go. And he abruptly hangs up the phone.
Oh no, we have to come now.
Yes. Now we have to get down there immediately.
So the three of you are going to head back to the Macallistar?
Yes.
Sarah?
Let me just find a roll of quarters.
No one's slugging anyone unless we absolutely have to.
All right.
I just want to be prepared if I need to. That's all.
All right. So I think that by the time you get back to the Macallistar, it's probably, it's getting late-ish. It's maybe around like 9:30 or 10. Are you going to head straight to Van Fitz's apartment, or is there other stuff that you want to do?
No, straight there.
All right. So you knock on the door of his apartment, and what happens? So it takes a few moments, but he does eventually open the door just a crack and looks out, and he sees that it's you and says, "Look, I told you that now's not a good time.
What's going on?
Well, that's not
We
your."
we were having a very cordial conversation before. Do you?
He closes the door in your face.
I'd like to stick my boot in the door so he can't do that.
All
and
right.
at that point, I would just want to like bust in.
You're gonna put your shoulder to the door?
Yeah.
I think there must be.
He's an artist. You said he's scrawny. I mean, if nothing else, it's probably strength X5.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Why don't you go ahead and roll strength by 5? Thank you. Thank you for understanding the rules of this game.
That is 70 over 40, so that is a no. But if somebody else wants to chime in and wants to pitch in here, Tara.
Yeah. Okay. That's a 50. So he rolls his strength, and we see who gets higher.
So I mean, with Tara and Sarah together, you'll successfully bust the door open. And what will you see? So Michael Van Fitz is sort of knocked back a little by the door crashing open. His demeanor is just so different to how it was this afternoon. That's the first impression. He sort of hunches down. He looks like he's about to spring at you. He's very hostile. The other thing, well, I guess all of you noticed this, but it's particularly striking for Tara and Yelena. This is not the same apartment that you visited this afternoon. It sort of resembles it superficially, but where before the walls were lined with bookshelves, now the bookshelves just seem to extend indefinitely into the distance. The room does not seem to have the boundaries that it should have, given the nature of the building. And the two of you are going to need to make resilience tests based on it.
Only the two of us? Yes, of course.
Yeah, I think Sarah is definitely going to notice that it's weird. Sarah, if you want to make a resilience test here as well, you can. But
I made it. Um,
All right. So,
So-
on a success, you're going to take 1 point of resilience loss.
I'm going to. I don't like his look. I'm going to. To reach in my bag and pull out my pry bar.
Oh.
I'm not going to make any threatening moves with it, but I want. But I've been attacked before in my professional capacity, and if I have to slug him, I'm going to slug him.
Okay. So he stays in like this sort of half, like he's moving like someone who doesn't really know how to fight, but is thinking about it.
Mr. Van Fitz.
Get out of my apartment. I did not invite you in here.
I show him a badge. Mr. Van Fitz, I could arrest you right now. If that's what you want.
What would you arrest me for? What would the charge be?
Failure to cooperate. And if you don't think that if honestly, do we really want to go here? We have a very cordial conversation this afternoon. Why are you so hostile?
You just broke my door down.
No, you were hostile before we did that. And we are investigating the woman's disappearance, and you suddenly have changed your chin. And that makes you a person of interest. Unless you can reassure us that our suppositions are needless.
Wait, I thought we were just here to watch the night floors, not like
we were. But this Sarah, this apartment's not what it was.
I mean, yeah, nothing ever is.
No.
Everything falls apart, right?
This afternoon.
Oh, he redecorated?
Yes, he had an extra 50 feet or so added onto his apartment.
So Sarah, I mean, as this is pointed out to you, you are going to see that the room extends in a way that should be impossible for the size of the building.
Michael, you got to put me in touch with your interior decorator. I would love to find out how they do this. This is just, but look, just tune into the night floors and we'll be out of your hair.
If that's what you want, I'll do it. But I don't think any of you are capable of understanding a show like that. And he walks towards his television.
Well, it's a good thing we have an expert like you to help us. As he walks over to the television, I want to see if I can just like look at what kind of books are on the extra bookshelves that weren't there before.
Sure. So, I mean, I don't think you had a close look at what was there before, but your impression was that it was mostly like academic texts in the sort of. You are an academic, so I guess you probably recognize some university press names and things like that. The books on the shelves now are very different. They're all very old. Some of them look to be hundreds of years old. There's quite a lot of texts about zoology, some about history and science, and let's see. Let's have a look. Let's find you something that you like, a title that you notice. As you sort of you grab a book off the shelf. It is called A Horse by Degrees, and it's a kind of oversized, ponderous artwork laid in hardcover medical text with a painstakingly diagrammed anatomical side view of a horse. And it's made up of these kind of acetate pages that peel away, hundreds and hundreds of them, revealing more and more detail of the inner workings of the animal. It has this very tiny sort of labeling in, caption text. But as you look closely at it, you realize that it is just total gibberish.
So not even like does that? because you know how normally you can like look at something and be like, yeah, I know that this is a language, even if I can't understand it, and this is a language
It's
that
clear
exists.
it doesn't seem to be a language to you. It seems to be more like deliberate gibberish or random placements of letters to look like words, but not a language.
Huh.
Huh.
Those look like slides.
I'll hand the book over to Sarah and be like, do these words make sense to you?
And they definitely won't. Like, you'll see the same thing, that it's clear gibberish. But also, Yelena, you'll hear distant voices, like coming. You can see that the bookshelves extend sort of almost indefinitely away and start to curve in the distance, and you can hear that there are other people down that way.
Curving up, down, to a side, at an angle.
Like the floor is horizontal, so it curves
Uh-huh.
off to the left or to the right.
Okay.
Brandon, you're muted.
I'm just watching Von Fitz.
So he is sitting in front of the television, tuning, like adjusting the manual dial that takes it through frequencies. And I think that he'll say, if you're so interested in the night floors, you can just go right that way, and sort of gestures the direction of the curving bookshelves.
Rather cooperative of you.
It's a real place. The night floors, the floors that appear at night.
A real place. It's an interesting way to put it.
No,
Sure.
I mean, it's not just something you see on TV.
Oh, that's right.
But you can
It's
watch
right
it.
through there.
Please continue.
Sorry, are you asking him to continue trying to tune it in, or
Yes,
are you asking
I
him
am.
to continue talking? All right, so he goes back to trying to do that. And I think he'll say, like, I'm going to do my best for you because you've threatened me in my own home, but I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to tune in the program. It's not always possible.
Sure.
Fine, but you obviously know much more about this than you led us to believe earlier.
If you're suggesting that I was dishonest, that is outrageous.
Well, it may be outrageous, but it may also be true. Or was it a different you?
Different you. You hear a dog barking somewhere in the building, which is striking to you because you've visited all of the apartments, or at least all of the residents, and you know that there's not a dog living here.
Sarah, this building becomes a different place at night.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we weren't in Kansas anymore. I gotta ask, is it too early to start saying I told you so?
You own the consequences if you do.
I'm not miserable yet.
Okay, so Elena's saying it's too early. All right, but I just want to point out it's coming.
It occurs to me that you could have burned this building down and it might still be here. And then what would you have done?
Burned it down again? I mean, if it kind of like phases back in like it's in Brigadoon or some shit, then you burn it down twice, right?
I don't know. I've never burned down or seen a building that exists in superposition with another building or whatever you want to call this.
You know, it occurs to me if we went outside and burned it down now, the structure might return in the morning with a different Michael, which would mean that we hadn't really burned it down. like kind of Schrodinger's cat or something, and then you wouldn't have to feel bad about helping us because it wouldn't have happened.
Except
At
you'd
least
still
not.
be killing people.
The television suddenly comes into focus, and you see a scene from the show that you've watched before, and the actors or the characters in the show standing in a corridor that is lined with doors, like far too many doors for any real corridor. And one of them says, "What do you think? Burning it down would make any difference?" And the other is just about to respond when the signal goes, and it just resumes television static.
I would just like to point out that apparently we are a TV show now.
Or something.
I think at this point, Yelena, I don't know, just sort of finally is just like, look, we've been given a job to do, and it seems like we don't really have many other choices but to pursue this. I'm going this way.
Well, at least this might explain where Abigail went, I guess.
We might even find her.
Yeah, if we find her, we're probably not finding her. No,
Yes, but
you just pointed out we're talking to a different Michael, so that could be a different
true.
Abigail.
Yes, although the one we're looking for disappeared. All right, let's do it. Before.
So as you say that, Michael is going to pipe up and say, "Looking for Abigail, she just moved upstairs. What's the big deal?"
I thought we're on the top floor here.
You definitely are on the top floor of this building. But Michael seems indifferent to that. And no, she's up on the 6th. She moved in with, I don't know, some encyclopedia salesman.
I hate it here.
Well, if you don't like it, you're welcome to get out.
Michael, I want to make this clear. I will punch you in the mouth.
She will.
I don't understand why I'm always being menaced by women in my own home.
I can think of several reasons, but you should pay another woman probably $100 an hour to figure that out. Maybe with a whip or something.
Riding crop.
Yelena,
Like,
what do you
either
think?
we go this way, I'll sort of nod to the hallway, is I guess what I'm going to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Or we go up, because presumably now there is enough to go to.
Anybody want to lay odds on a corridor of infinite doorways if we go upstairs?
So that you do know that, like, when you visited before, there are stairs that lead up to the roof, or at least during the day, they seemed like they would lead up to the roof.
Maybe this Abigail can shed some light on what happened to other Abigail, if there's any kind of crossover that happens.
I think she'll probably just look at us like we have a second head. What do you mean? I'm right here. No, I think if we're going to find Abigail, we're going to have to go look in the place that we know shouldn't be her.
You mean what? Like a library down that way in a living room that shouldn't exist in the way that it does, or a floor that doesn't exist in a building where we know it isn't?
Yes.
God, the syntax of this hurts.
That away, and I point down the stacks of books.
All right.
Mhm.
So the three of you head off down amongst the shelves. Is there anything in particular that you're looking for, or you're just going to wander that way until you find something?
Voices, you said.
Mhm.
Okay. So as you follow the shelves, they eventually sort of taper out and are replaced with what looks more like the corridors of an old hotel or something like that. The Tara, I want you to give me a resilience roll, please.
Sure. Me.
So that's a success, right?
It is.
All right. So you're going to lose one resilience. Sorry, you're going to lose your choice of one resilience or one willpower, whichever of those you like. Because what you realize is that the corridor seems to be reorganizing itself as you move so that you can't close on the voices that you've heard. You can't get any closer to them. There's other things going on around you, but not that.
Okay. I'm going to stop. It's a hotel, or something that looks like a hotel.
But it seems like we're getting no closer to our actual destination or desired destination.
Wouldn't call it desired, maybe intended.
Intended.
Because I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. This is
English is hard.
Yes.
look. I'm used to painting perspective. I'm used to painting like according to very strict grids and perspectives. This is hurting my head.
So you do see someone. A guy sort of rushes by you in the corridor. He sort of comes around a corner back behind you. He walks past quite briskly. You're all from, I think you're all from Boston, so you recognize that he's wearing a Boston Red Sox like sweater. Just very purposefully marches by you. Reaches for a door handle just up the corridor ahead. Says 27. Opens the door and steps inside. Closes it behind him.
When in doubt, follow the socks. And I'm just going to go right after him and go to the same door and say the same thing.
Yeah. Go along with Sarah.
I'll mutter behind them as I walk, like, I prefer hockey.
one data point. You should try baseball. It's a good game. Played it in college.
So you open the door. It's a sort of modest hotel room, quite old-fashioned in its furnishings. There's clearly no exits from the room other than the door that you've just opened, but the man you saw is gone.
Okay.
Is it room 27?
No, it'll be numbered, room like 315.
Look around, I guess.
So, I mean, you're just going to find an unremarkable hotel room. Looks to be from maybe the 70s or so, like the furnishings and decorations, the style.
Have some kind of weird ass Bible in the drawer.
Has the regular Bible.
So the Gideons get here too. That's strangely comforting.
Right, interdimensional proselytizers.
Is the corridor still the corridor?
Oh yeah.
We don't really have an aim here.
Did you want to try and go upstairs? Did you want to try and get back to where you came from? Keep trying to find someone to talk to?
Let's try going back the way we came from.
Maybe go up.
I'm not saying what about it, but let's try that first.
You're happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Tara, I'll get you again to make a resilience check.
Why me?
So you're leading the way.
Yes, well,
All right.
I'm resilient as fuck because I have just turned off my logic for the moment, evidently. It's
So
like, okay, I have no idea. But
so you're going to lose another point from your current resilience or willpower, your choice. As again, you realize that the corridor no longer leads back to Michael's apartment. What you'll find instead is a finely dressed, small, dark-haired waiter standing in the corridor, carrying a platter of hors d'oeuvres of some kind. He smiles warmly towards the three of you.
I will have a cheese puff.
So as you approach, he says something in a language that none of you can identify, something sort of vaguely European. And you see that the snacks on his tray are some sort of like small individual jelly servings or gelatinous something. No cheese puffs.
You mean like Jello shots, or just like odd things don't recognize?
So not shots. They're individually served little jellies. They look, quite fancy.
Is there anything in them?
You want to have a close look?
Not really, but sure. Why not?
So what you see as you look closely, and again, the waiter is speaking, a friendly tone in a language that you don't understand. Each of these little sort of balls of gelatin has a tiny dead gold insect in the center.
I'll look at Tara and say, "This is definitely 70s cuisine. They jellied every goddamn thing they could think of, like jellied herring, jellied mackerel, jellied salmon. Here it's jellied insects."
Golden insects.
Yeah.
Does the waiter seem to like do we seem as incomprehensible when we're talking to him?
Are you talking to him?
Well, we're talking to each other. I guess.
I will certainly talk to him. I said, "What are these things called?"
He replies again in a language that you don't understand. But it does seem like he understands what you're saying.
Okay.
We have lost our way in this fine building. Is there someone that we can talk to that might help us find our room?
So again, he nods in the course of whatever he says that you can't understand.
I'm having trouble understanding you. Perhaps you could take us to such a place.
He asks you something.
I shrug my shoulders.
He looks around.
I have a little bit of experience of dealing with people whose languages I don't know, but mostly in emergency circumstances.
Sure.
Told you we should have started a fire.
Sarah, leave it.
He sort of puts down the platter. You get the impression that he's not totally sure about leaving it behind, but he is going to lead you somewhere and doesn't seem to want to take it with him. Are all three of you going to go with the waiter or just Tara? Or does it? Well, sorry, let me rephrase. Does anyone want to do something other than follow the waiter?
I think splitting up is a bad idea right now.
I was going to say splitting the party seems exceedingly dangerous.
Yeah, we're likely to end up with 2 missing people, or 3, or maybe 4.
Or all.
Yeah, that would be 4, if you include our initial charge, Abigail.
All right. So he leads you down the corridor. It extends like much further than it seems like a hotel corridor should. There are many turns that don't seem to make sense. He doesn't take you up or down any floors or anything like that. It seems like you're on the same level, at least. And eventually, he sort of comes to a stop outside of a door. And this door, like most of the doors that you've seen, just have a hotel room number on them. But this one has more like a nameplate, and it says H. Castaigne, Night Manager on it. From here, you can also see or hear, just a bit further down the corridor is another door that has some sort of music coming from behind it, and maybe the sounds of people like laughing or, it sounds like there are people in there having a good time generally. And the waiter gestures to the night manager's door.
So
Thank you for taking the trouble to go out of your way.
He sort of nods or bows towards you.
Does anybody else find it odd that we can read and understand what's written, but can't seem to understand what's spoken?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna tip him.
Nice. He takes the money, but looks at it as if he's never seen anything like it before. But he will take it and put it in his pocket.
Out of character, do we know what Yelena was actually doing in the KGB? Is that something that she shared with us?
I think no. I think she would. I don't even think that she has disclosed that she was in the KGB. Only that she had something to do with the Soviet government. Yes. Left. Yeah. So I would say everybody knows that much, but not specifically that
she worked for the government, and probably Delta Green strongly discourages asking details.
So what do you do?
So we open the door, or knock, I guess.
Yeah, knock first.
Knock.
I mean, we have manners, right?
Yes, knock.
So the door opens, and you see a very frail, very elderly man, almost like a sort of shorter, ailing Albert Einstein, but immaculately dressed in maybe 19th century-ish clothes. Gives you a warm smile, and without saying anything, takes half a step back and gestures for you all to come in.
I'm going in.
All right.
All right. So the three of you step inside the apartment, and let's take a 5-minute break here, and we'll come back and see what happens. My housemate just knocked on my door to ask if they could borrow my copy of Samuel Delaney's Dahlgren for a plane ride. And I was like, I don't know if you know that book, but I was like, yeah, you can, but it's not what I would want to distract myself during a long flight. Maybe they'll enjoy it.
I don't know that one.
It's not a light read.
Apologies for the delay.
Oh, that's all right.
What book?
Samuel Delaney's Dahlgren.
Oh, God.
Science fiction.
It's a 1,000-page experimental science fiction novel from the maybe 70s. I love it,
Yeah.
but it's not what I think of when I think of like airplane read. All right.
It's surrealist, kind of almost, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it also has very long stretches of sort of almost slice of life, like not much is happening here type stuff, which again is not really what I want on a plane. But let's
But
get back to
that's perfect airplane reading though, because that way, if anybody asks you what you're reading, you start to describe it to them. I
well,
mean,
there are also
one
parts that
time
you very much would not want to describe to a random person on a plane.
Maybe he's going to Carcosa.
Yeah, maybe.
a plane to Carcosa. Dear God, Carcosa has an airport now.
Yeah, of course they have a spaceport.
All right, so let's come back to the night manager's apartment. So he gets you all settled on some nice velvet couches,
That's a nice.
and
That would be a nice title for a book, by the way. The Night Manager's Apartment.
he
Right.
turns to Yelena, and with a smile, he says, "Are these friends of yours?"
Yes, you could say that.
And he turns and offers his hand to shake to each of Tara and Sarah. He introduces himself as Henry Castaigne. You can hear like a sort of faint French accent, but it sounds like he hasn't, that he's been in America for a long time. Is there something that I can help the three of you with?
We seem to be lost and
That's true.
unable to find our room.
Oh,
Or indeed our building.
what?
Or our reality, actually. But this is a really nice one.
He smiles and nods at that.
And
What
a
room?
friend as well, I believe.
We're also looking for a young woman,
Oh, Abigail. Yeah, I suppose we should probably ask about her too.
a young woman named Abigail Wright. Here's
Oh,
this is a picture of her.
yeah, yes, I know Abigail. She's up on the 6th floor. She's a very good tenant.
Well,
A tenant?
where we come from, she's been missing for a while.
Oh no, I don't think that's right. She's been here though. She's always been here. Well, I mean, for a while now.
How long would you say a while is?
Yes, that's right.
Can you remind us the name of this building?
What will he say to that? Good question. He, yeah, he'll say that this is the hotel.
The Overlook Hotel? Which hotel?
I don't think it's useful to go into those kinds of details. Is it?
Well,
Well, if Abigail's here, we should go say hi.
are you aware that there are other buildings in this same place in different circumstances?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Out of
Well,
curiosity, how much do you know about this hotel?
Well, I've been the night manager for a long time.
Do you know who designed the hotel?
I wouldn't really say that the hotel was designed.
Do you know a man named Asa Darabandi?
Oh, yes, he stays here sometimes.
Darabondi's the architect. Sarah?
Of the Macallistar building, yeah.
Who clearly
Is he staying here now?
I'm not sure.
no, but
Oh,
perhaps he came here and remembered some of what he had seen, and that's where his designs come from.
What room does he normally stay in?
Hmm. I think that he has a room on the 4th floor. I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you the number.
Are the hallways as long on the 4th floor as they are on this floor?
That would be strange if they weren't the same length, wouldn't it?
I mean, of course. How foolish of me to ask. Just out of curiosity, do you know where my parents are staying in this hotel?
So when he shook your hand, would you have introduced yourself as Sarah? Like, would you have used your parents' surname?
Yeah.
I think he'll say, no, I don't think they've been guests here. I don't know your parents.
They would have talked quite a bit about the Mayflower, most likely.
He sort of chuckles a little in a friendly way. Says, I don't remember anyone like that. He casts a glance across the room at that point. There's like a moment where you notice that he sort of looks at something, but doesn't, like, almost like he composes himself quickly because he doesn't want to see you to see what he's doing.
Oh, that feels like that could be a human's role.
I mean, I don't think there's a human role there. There could be like an alertness role to see what it is that he's looking at.
Mm.
I'd like to try that.
You're all welcome to try that.
Somebody with a better alertness than me
Yes.
should try this.
Success.
All right. So you're pretty sure that he glanced over at a sort of locked box with a padlock on it that's sitting on a little desk in the next room. Because his unit is, quite expansive. There's little rooms leading off the area where you're gathered.
I mentioned this to you, Elena.
Quietly or so
Quietly.
Yeah.
Quietly. I'm being polite.
Sure.
I'll look at him and at the night manager and be like, I'm banking on, because it seemed like he was familiar with me. Can you tell my friends how we met? I always think it's a pretty good story, but better when you tell it.
Well, you stayed here before. I mean, that's the story, really. Is there something that you want me to say?
Like I'm also struggling to remember the room that I usually stay in.
Well, you only visited the once.
Only once, Yelena? And you never mentioned it. You never told us about this.
Like,
And
well,
I'm smiling. Try to make it seem like
well,
I don't have my teeth gritted.
And I think he'll
life
add,
as an academic.
you were with some Russian friends. They seemed, I mean, I don't mean to be rude. I didn't care for them.
Yes, my former Russian colleagues were quite austere.
Yes, quite. I don't. Perhaps a little abrupt as well.
Indeed.
Well, do we want to go visit Abigail, or do we want to get back, perhaps, where we came?
I'd rather go check up on Mr. Van Fitz. See how he's doing.
Yes. I'm sure he wonders where we've gotten off to.
Well, it was very kind of you all to visit. I hope you'll enjoy your stay.
We already have.
Thank you,
But
sir.
if you would help us find our way back, that would be of a kindness.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm expecting an important phone call. I don't think that I could step out. You said you want to find Mr. Van Fitz's apartment?
Yes, please.
I can direct you. And he'll sort of lead you to the door. He'll keep glancing back towards the phone. And he'll, open the door and give you some instructions. The instructions don't seem to be consistent with the way that you got here from where you entered, but certainly they're directions. And he'll say goodbye unless you have anything else you want to say to him or ask him.
No.
I mean,
Thank you for your
lockbox is important.
hospitality.
Once the door is shut, and we've stepped away for a little, I'm going to say if he hadn't been there, I would have wanted to break into that little safe that he looked over to.
Are there any?
But right now we're all agreed that we should get back to Michael's apartment. Yeah.
Well, we should try it, and let's hope these directions mean anything and we don't end up in yet another place. But it seems like, I mean, insofar as such an impossible place might have any consistency. He said, the way he said the hotel makes me think that this is a place that you could possibly get to from a great many other places.
Yeah, that's a
Kind of
fantastic idea. Can we
transitionary.
get back to Van Fitz's room, please?
Okay.
Elena, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, that was basically reiterating the same thing. But I'm wondering, are there any windows to the outside anywhere?
I mean, not from the hallways. There was probably a window in the hotel room that you went into earlier, and there's plenty of room, plenty of doors on either side of the hallway if you want to try and look and see what's outside.
I'm kind of wondering what's outside. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just really quickly, like in the previous room we were in, hopefully it's still open. Like not the night manager's room. And just take a quick glance before we head on.
All right. Go ahead and make a resilience check.
My brain cannot understand it. Is what I'm going to get out of this. Okay, here we go.
Is that a
That
success?
is a pass. Yeah.
All right. So you open a door to one of the rooms, but there are no external windows in the room. And you just have a very strong feeling that there was a window there a moment ago, and that the building has reorganized itself to frustrate you. And that's going to cost you your choice of 1 willpower or 1 resilience.
I think I will take a resilience test.
And now are the three of you going to try and get back to Van Fitz's?
Although as we go, I'm going to say, I get the distinct feeling that this place is trying to keep something from us.
Probably. Yeah. Totally agree, in fact. But, let's keep moving and get back to Van Fitz's apartment.
You're muted, Brandon.
Are you suggesting places of agency? Don't answer that.
Our task as Delta Green operatives is to prevent contamination. It's not to do anything about a freaky ass hotel in another dimension or on another plane or whatever this is. So as long as we close it off from the Macallistar building, as far as I'm concerned, we've done our job and we can go the fuck home. So let's do that and go.
Okay. Let's.
All right. So Sarah, it sounds like you're taking the lead now. So why don't you make a resilience test for us?
Thank you for asking for so politely. I'm equally sure that I don't want to, but all right. My current resilience is 75. Roll with me. Oh, 47.
All right. So you follow the directions that the night manager gave you, but it just doesn't lead you back to Van Fitz's apartment. In fact, it seems to bring you out to another hallway, and you see about sort of 20 meters or so down the hall ahead of you. One of the doors opens, and a set of arms in long johns reaches out from inside the room and puts a wooden box on the hallway floor, and then shuts the door. While the door was open, you could hear from, apparently from inside the room, this sort of eruption of distant applause, as if there was a theatre on the other side of the door.
You know what? What the hell? We're just like opening doors, right? We're just kind of like opening doors at random now. That's what we're doing, right, Tara? Right, Yelena? Let's go to that one and at least see what's in that wooden box. Maybe we can be part of a magician's act or something.
Maybe.
So you wander over and look down into the box. You can see an ancient-looking Latin book labeled the Hygromantia, which, sorry, bear with me for one sec. Which you, Sarah, with your, you had a pretty decent knowledge of the occult, right?
Mm-hmm.
The title is familiar to you. It's a 15th century grimoire written by an unknown author who the text referred to as Solomon. It's sort of an early version of what would become the Lesser Key of Solomon, as well as there are other later occult texts that are believed to be based on it. You also see a sort of silver robe made of plastic in the box, and about a dozen little glass vials that have some sort of seed pod inside them.
I don't know what those seeds are, but I don't like them.
Don't look at me for any help here.
What's the
look? Can I say it now? Are we all miserable and uncomfortable enough for me to say it now?
What if I say no?
Then I'm going to look at Yelena, because Yelena said she wasn't miserable enough.
Oh, I see. First one to give up wins. Is that it?
Be like, do what you need to do, Sarah.
I fucking told you so.
Yes, you did.
You did, but it's our job to look into things like this.
Correction.
It
It is our
is.
job to stop contamination from spreading. We could
Yes,
have
well,
done that without going down this hallway.
that's like saying, that's like, yeah, it's like saying, you're going to stop somebody from killing again by refraining from looking into the circumstances of his previous killing. It was
I
a
mean-
dangerous thing to do, but
My suggestion was burn the building down, which would have
we cannot
theoretically
do
contained
that. We are literally not permitted to do that. That is the antithesis of containment. That is exposure. That is drawing a huge amount of attention to a problem that no one might realize anything occult or dangerous has taken place, and you know that. But how best to point the finger and say, "Hey guys, did you have an idea that something strange or bizarre might have taken place?" Well, guess what? It's just been confirmed. How funny that the building where this mysterious disappearance could have been should have just happened to have a arson. Because you can tell these things, by the way. There's no way to burn down a building without people figuring out that it was how it was done. Not in our day and time, at least. Or at least you may not be able to figure out who did it, but you can tell it was arson.
I mean, good thing we're not in our day or time anymore, isn't it?
Okay, and these are contiguous buildings in Manhattan. There's no way to burn down a building. Come on, Sarah. We had to at least look. And yeah, we all knew that it might blow up in our faces. But that's the risk we take.
It could have blown up in our faces.
Mm.
And I
You want to
believe
go?
that
Do you want to go up and look for Abigail?
I kind of want to know how Yelena knows the night manager.
I don't think this Yelena does know that.
I don't fucking know the night manager.
He knew
And-
you.
Yes, he knew me, or
And
a
Russians?
version of me.
What the fuck were you doing?
I'm Russian.
How did you? What were you doing here?
To find here.
This liminal fucked up space between our reality and who knows what?
That's a pretty good word. I have to remember that word.
I mean, I think that's a pretty good definition of where we are.
I'll go for it. It's better than anything I had.
Just like your government, my government knew of the existence of some of these places. And part of my job was to study them. But I have never once been here.
That you remember.
I guess that's true for all of us.
That I remember.
Okay, so you studied places like this. That puts you ahead
like
of Tara and I.
People.
Excuse me.
I wish Felix was here.
Felix would be looking at shut through his glasses.
Yeah, that might shed some light. Oh, hey, that gives me an idea. Not that I expect this to turn out much, but I'm going to try something.
And that is?
I'm going to try closing my eyes and seeing whether or not things feel the way they look. We routinely do exercises in training where they blindfold us and make us go through buildings because sometimes you get
Can't
a
see
situation where visibility drops to 0. And they want people to not freak out and still be able to find the exit. So
I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder, and Yelena, why don't you put your hand on my shoulder? And Tara, you do your thing, and you start walking, and I will... Do we all need to have our fingers crossed? Do we all need to have our eyes closed, or just you?
You got me.
Why don't we all close our eyes then? I mean, this seems like some Wizard of Oz shit, but
Do we have to tap our heels together?
Look, I don't have any ruby slippers.
No, that's true. Weren't they silver slippers in the original story? I've always wondered about that.
I just want to go home.
Fair enough. So let's let the, what is it? The wish be the father of the deed?
I don't even know at this point. I want to
Something
go
like that.
home.
All right.
All right. So you close your eyes, you place your hands on each other's shoulders, and Tara leads the way. Tara, are you trying to get back specifically to the Van Fitz apartment?
No,
To
I'm
the
just
coast
trying. No,
generally?
I'm trying to get out
Okay.
because that's what I'm trained to learn how to do. And so, like, try to perceive. I mean, you can't always go with air currents because sometimes you're in full gear. But I'm just trying to get out.
All right. Make a resilience test.
Yes, succeed.
All right. So as you walk, as you try and find your way out based on your training, all three of you, like, struggle to keep your eyes closed as you hear all kinds of strange noises nearby to you. There are chimes ringing out. At some point, there's occasionally applause or laughter, sounds of clockwork or music boxes, things like that. And ultimately, you have to concede that it hasn't worked and that you haven't found a way out. You have no idea where a way out might be. And again, you're going to lose your choice of one resilience or one willpower.
Okay.
When you open your eyes, there's an envelope in your hand, Tara. The envelope is addressed in fine cursive writing to Ian Frederick de Craig, prisoner 125101.
Of all the things I imagined happening, this wasn't one of them. I will. 125101. That's a prisoner number. Are we in a prison or still in the hotel?
It looks like it did before.
Okay, I'll open the envelope then.
All right. It's an invitation, and it reads, "Join us at the palace, a masquerade to celebrate the new king. Come to dine, come to dance, come."
Well,
Invitation to a prisoner.
it's an invitation to someplace.
Like, I realize I'm stating the blindingly obvious here, but we are definitely not in Kansas because Kansas doesn't have a king.
Yes, nor does it have envelopes that appear in your hand, but Oz kind of does, although this doesn't sound like anything I remember.
I'm not even remotely attired for a ball. I learned about such things from my parents, and I look down at my jeans and leather jacket and boots and t-shirt. And it's like, this is not how one is supposed to go attired to a ball.
Maybe they'll have clothes. You never know.
I mean,
Right.
maybe we could find our way back to the night manager. He seemed friendly. Maybe he could help.
I think
Oh,
our chances of finding the night manager are about our chances of finding our way to Van Fitz's apartment, given his directions.
we've entirely lost the point of what we're even looking for. And we know that Anne Abigail is here.
We know that an Abigail is somewhere in this building, honestly.
On this 6th floor.
Yes.
Yeah, one floor up.
I mean, what's one thing that's striking to you is that at no point you've explored quite a lot of this floor, which seems almost boundless, but there's never been a sign of any staircases or elevators or anything like that.
That too. Shall we accept the invitation?
Or
What's
bust
the
up
worst
the night
that could
manager?
happen?
Yeah,
What's the worst that could happen? I don't care to answer that, honestly. So, but I'll take that as a yes. Elena?
I was going to say, or bust into the night manager's office and find out what's in that box.
I have a feeling that it might just be another riddle, because that seems to be what this building is made of. So let's go to the ball. Do I have to hold it up, and do I have to? Is there a place to reply?
There is not.
On the invitation.
No.
No directions.
Generally, with
no
this
location.
stuff like this, you present it at the door if there's no RSVP listed.
Okay.
If you want to look at the invitation, it's in the handouts folder in the Google Drive.
You know, at some point after this is over, I would like to understand. I'd like us to have a conversation about how they expected a prisoner to attend a ball. But
well, if he had an invitation,
yeah, but how would the prisoner get out of prison or jail or detention of whatever sort?
Maybe the invitation itself. Well, the palace.
Here's an idea.
You just have to find the palace.
Considering nothing in this place makes sense, why don't we just present this invitation at any door and see what happens?
I agree. This looks like the palace door as much as any of the other doors here.
So, Tara, you're holding the invitation up to one of the doors?
Yes.
And then you open the door?
Yep.
Roll resilience for me.
Critical success.
All right. Critical success. Cool. Okay. So you open the door, and what will you see? The door. You open the door, and the room beyond it is empty. But what you notice, so there's definitely there's no masquerade here, nothing like that. But what you see, you notice that the room, which otherwise is an ordinary hotel room, has a tall but narrow fracture in the plaster. And you can see, even from across the room, that on the far side of the fracture is what appears to be a cave or like rocks, something like that, rather than a hotel room or part of a building.
Fantastic.
Still have that pry bar with you?
Oh, I have a fire bar and a fire axe, actually.
I mean, beyond that, there's what looks to be like discarded digging equipment lying just by the crack in the wall.
You mean on the other side or on this side?
On this side.
Okay, well.
Apparently, ask and you shall receive.
I mean, when you say digging equipment, are we talking jackhammers or are we talking like pickaxes?
Yeah, more like pickaxes and crowbars and things like that.
Well, you know, I know how to break through a wall.
Mm-hmm.
That is in my skill set.
So as you get closer, as you approach it, you see that it's not just rocks, but some sort of cave on the far side. Obviously, that's completely impossible. And you're going to make a resilience test to see how that strikes you. Anyone who notices or gets close enough to notice that it's a cave needs to make a resilience test.
I'll make a resilience test.
I think me too.
Look at that crit success.
Succeed.
And a success for me as well.
All right. So all of you are fine. None of you take any resilience damage from that.
I think we've become a little numb.
You're all very good at rolling resilience. But what you see in the cave is that there are little alcoves lining the wall, and the alcoves each contain bottles. Each bottle different, unique or seemingly unique. Some glass, some ceramic, some steel. And you can feel a sort of cool, dry wind blowing out of the hole towards you.
Just as long as they don't say drink me.
Doesn't seem like it. You think there is some sort of inscription on the bottles, but you can't read them from where you are. You're going to try and smash your way through?
Yes. This is the first non-hotel thing we have encountered in this space.
Also,
I'm actually relieved to see that there is an impossible cave.
That at least feels normal.
Well, it's something that's not just an endless thing of twisty passages.
All right. So
Sarah, this could be quite cathartic for you. Let's mash up this hotel.
What? So Sarah and Yelena, are you both gonna? Are either of you gonna help Tara? Like pick
Are
up
you kidding me? I get to do damage to this place? Absolutely.
Yelena, what about you? I think probably three of you swinging at the same time might be a bit much. But
No.
what do you do while the others are hacking in?
I guess I'll play lookout. Maybe check around the room just in case there's anything else of note.
All right. So I guess Tara, you rear back and swing the pick into the wall. Now both of you need to make a dodge roll as the wall collapses towards the two of you.
It's a miss.
Well, that is a critical failure.
It is a crit miss.
67 over 30.
All right, so you're both going to take damage, and Tara is going to take twice as much. So let me see. Oh, God. I'm scared that someone's going to die already. Let's see.
I have a little bit of first aid.
7 points of damage to Sarah and 14 points of damage to Tara, who really takes the brunt of it. And concrete and stone falling all around you.
Can we say, just to salve my my ego, that it happened in a way that didn't make any sense, or that I couldn't have seen coming?
Oh, it definitely did not make sense. You've swung a pick before. There's no way that a wall should have reacted like that. There even seems to be more material that's fallen on you than could plausibly have been part of the wall.
I got beamed by the hotel. Okay, well, I fall.
Just a big billowing cloud of white dust sort of envelopes the three of you. So there's lots of coughing and spluttering as you start trying to sort of dig yourself out.
I'm stunned for a good 20 seconds or so. And
I think at this point, I would rush over to actually make sure that people are okay, and would help pick up any debris and whatnot off of them.
Sure.
Oh, where did that come from? I got hit on top of the head, and I was picking at the wall in front of me. Unless the whole facade came down, but that doesn't make any sense.
So if you look up, you'll see that there's no longer a crack in the wall. There's no sign of the caves beyond that you could see before. Yelena, do you want to try and do a little first aid here?
God, what happened? What happens if I?
Can I
So-
talk? Can I talk her through it?
I don't think so. Hang on. Let me check.
Yeah, is there any aid rules?
So there's not. So first aid, it's just going to be a first aid roll. If you roll a critical failure, you are going to do more damage, but otherwise a failure is just going to like not
Alright.
help.
I only have a 30, so let's just see what. Oh, thank God.
Nice. So was that for Tara or Sarah?
I think, like, if I can accurately assess that, Tara's the more badly hurt, then
Yeah.
I would go for her.
All right.
That's
So
what I would go for.
you're going to heal. You're going to Tara's going to recover 1d6. So Yelena, why don't you roll and see how much you're able to help?
All right, D6. Roll that.
All right.
Two.
So healing just 2 hit points. Do you want to try and provide some aid to Sarah as well?
Let me.
Yes, I
Let me. Let me. Let me do that.
Yeah,
I was
maybe
going to wait for
maybe
Tara
should do
anyway.
that.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's just.
So just a first aid roll to start.
Yeah. Hold still. Critical success.
A critical success. So I think that means you're going to do 2d6 of healing.
7 points back.
Nice.
Well, hell, that puts me back up at full health.
Yeah. It's. You got a cut on your forehead. A lot more blood than injury. Honestly, you'll be okay.
All right. And I think that's where we're going to finish up for this week with the two of you still bleeding, still battered, still bruised, but basically as okay as you can be, lost in this seemingly endless hotel with no logic and no obvious means of escape. So
It was just a tease.
is it going to be all right with everyone if I post the video?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'll end the recording and then we'll do stars and wishes.